The Top Floor Please podcast, where women in leadership rise together. I'm your host, Melissa McCormick, executive coach and founder of the Grace and Salt Leadership Academy. This is your space to find clarity, grow in confidence, and lead with bold authenticity. Whether you're navigating the boardroom, building your team, or stepping into new territory, you're not alone. Let's talk real challenges, real growth, and real leadership because the top floor isn't just a place, it's a mindset. Alrighty then, let's get started.
Hey there, everyone. I'm super excited that you are here on this podcast. As it is airing, this is February and it is Black History Month. I wanted to highlight a leader whose story is as relevant today as it was over 100 years ago, and that is Madam C.J. Walker. When we hear that phrase, self-made millionaire, many people don't know this, but the first female self-made millionaire in the United States was a Black woman born in the 1900s. Madam C.J. Walker, she just wasn't successful. She was strategic, she was resilient, and she led without waiting for permission. So I first learned about C.J. Walker last year when I was writing blogs before the podcast was launched in June of 2025. And I fell in love with her. I was just so impressed with her perseverance and her just tenacity of succeeding. And that because she didn't really have a choice. And so I wrote a blog and I'm turning that blog today into a podcast. I think it's a story that really needs to continue to be told. In fact, I'm a bit embarrassed that I didn't know about CJ Walker. I was presenting at a YWCA event a year ago, and I mentioned Madam CJ Walker to the group of ladies who all, first of all, couldn't believe that I didn't know about her, but second of all, agreed with my thoughts and my opinions. So, hello, I am Melissa McCormick, and I am your host of the Top Floor Please podcast. I once planned to argue cases in a boardroom. Totally true. But instead of that, that didn't work out. I help leaders stop arguing with their calendar. I traded that courtroom for the boardroom so that overwhelmed business owners and leaders within those businesses can get out of the weeds, get out of that day to day. I help them learn how to communicate clearly, how to strengthen their teams, and how to get their time back, quite honestly. And that's a big part of it so that they can run the business instead of the business running them. So, so I want you to think about this. CJ Walker was not just a success story. She was a visionary businesswoman who used target marketing before it even had a name. Like she used target marketing before it was even a thing. So I want you to think about that. Think about 1900s. There weren't many opportunities for women in business, right? Women couldn't even vote until 1920, which was the year my mother-in-law was born. Isn't that crazy? Yeah. I love Evelyn. And I wish she was still with us today, but then she would be 105 and that might not make sense. But anyway, women couldn't even vote till 1920. So, so think about that, 1900s, right? Digging deeper into her story, she was such an inspiration. Not only did she create a thriving company, but she also built a network of thousands of women entrepreneurs. And so, like 1099s, you and I would know them as 1099s. Instead of hiring W-2 employees, she went with the 1099 route and she contracted them, and they had their own business. And then she taught them the business of entrepreneurship. Her story is one of resilience, strategy, and leadership. It offers powerful lessons for women in business today. And so that's what we're going to talk about. So here I want you to know just a little bit about her life. And it totally wasn't easy, right? She was not born into wealth. She was born to Owen and Minerva Breedlove in Delta, Louisiana on December 23rd, 1867. She was orphaned by 7 years old. She was a mother by 17 years old, and she was a widow by 20. Think about that. She was orphaned by the age of 7, a mother by the age of 17, and a widow by the age of 20 in a world that did not accept women leaders or business people. in a world that saw women differently, much differently than men. She decided that she needed to create a better hair care product when she started losing her hair. So back then, there weren't products tailored to the unique needs of Black women's hair, right? So according to this biography that I did the research with, Madam C.J. Walker told reporters that the solution to her hair loss came to her in a dream. So she was sleeping and she had this dream. She found the ingredients in her dream. The vision, I would honestly, I don't know C.J. Walker. I am obviously she's been gone for a long time. Um, but I'm trying to put myself into her shoes, and I just feel like she had a vision. That was her dream, and in the dream, it she they identified the dream identified the ingredients that she needed to put together in order to solve the problem that these but most Black women were having. So she woke up. She's like, "Wait, what? What? It's incredible how she did this." So then she found those ingredients. Some of them came from Africa. Think about that, 1900s, Africa. She mixed them up, she tried it, and she put it together in the formula that she needed to. She used it. I mean, that's a risk right there. Is more of my hair going to fall out, or is this going to work? Like, what am I doing right here? But it was worth a shot because otherwise it's falling out anyway. So either it's going to fall out faster, it's going to fall out at the same rate, or it's going to work. And guess what? Yeah, her hair grew back faster than it had fallen out. And she knew she needed to sell it. She knew it wasn't about selling it, it was about serving. She knew that she needed to provide this product to other Black women around the United States so that they didn't have the same problem she had. But instead of just creating a product, she created a business model that put the right product in front of the right audience, understanding what it takes to lead in business. She figured out her target market and she had the product. Like target marketing was what she, as far as I'm concerned, she invented it and really just led this and grew this incredible business. So I coach women, right, in executive leadership or mid management up and help them with executive presence and help them with their leadership. But this story absolutely speaks volumes to me. Madam C.J. Walker's approach, it validates and reinforces the importance of strategic marketing, effective leadership, understanding your unique audience. And it reminds me why I'm so passionate about empowering women in business today to develop their leadership presence, to overcome those barriers and excel in their careers. So, if I had to take a look at what's most inspiring about her journey, it was that she faced all of this as a single mom, a Black woman, a single mom, a Black woman, not only a Black woman, but a Black woman in business, a woman in business. Like she's already got three strikes against her. She's a mom, she's Black, and she's a woman. She did all of that and became this visionary entrepreneur against all odds. So we often talk about executive presence, right? You'll hear me talk about executive presence, that confidence and that ability to lead with authority. Well, I think Madam C.J. Walker had that in spades. Like that was she oozed that executive presence. And my guess is she wanted to give up plenty of times. Can you imagine? Think about this. Like I'm even thinking, okay, 1900s, actually late 1800s. She was born in 1867, so she's 20 years old. So she's, 1887, late 1800s, early 1900s. And she's going door to door trying to sell her product to these Black women so that their hair doesn't fall out. And she probably kept hitting a wall too because there's probably other people. Could she get financing? No, she couldn't get financing. So as an entrepreneur myself, I think, do I need financing? Like I don't want financing. I want to be able to run this business so that it sustains itself, so that I'm not creating debt for not only my business, but also for me personally. Well, that's the approach I'm guessing that she must have had too, right? But she kept going, she kept going. And we can all draw leadership lessons from her. So here are some key leadership lessons that I want to share with you today. The first one is understanding her market. She knew that traditional beauty companies ignored the needs of Black women. So she made them her primary audience. After all, most products come out of some either challenges that we've had, or a product that you developed because you had this particular issue, right? So she's looking at her market as really her. She wants to find people that are like her. She didn't try to appeal to everyone. She focused on women who needed her product the most, Black women. So the lesson from that, from understanding her market, is success comes from understanding your market and positioning yourself to solve their problems. Understanding your stakeholders, your team members. That's a key part of effective leadership. So think about that. Think about who your team is. Understand them. In the previous podcast, if you haven't heard it, go back and listen to it. And or two ago, I guess, around February 14th, that time frame. We talk about sense of belonging. So understand your team, understand your colleagues, learn, connect. Super important. Understand what their needs are so you can serve them. This is all servant leadership. Lesson number 2, building a sales force of women entrepreneurs. Okay, so long before social networks, right? Social media, any of that kind of thing, she trained, and long before the Avon, like ding dong, Avon's calling or something like that when I was a kid, right? All the Avon ladies. This is what CJ Walker created long before Avon even existed. She trained thousands of women. They were known as Walker agents or beauty culturalists to sell her products. They were 1099s. She didn't have to have them on her payroll, right? They bought the product from her. It's kind of like Mary Kay. It's kind of like Tupperware. It's kind of like Pampered Chef, all of those kinds of businesses. They were entrepreneurs that then built their businesses. So the lesson here, I want you to think about this. Empowering others in your business creates loyalty, growth, and impact beyond just sales. Like you're developing these people. That's your impact. That's the impact that you need to have at your organization. The sales will come when you develop your people. Strong leadership is about inspiring others to step into their own power, not to do it for them. We've talked about that plenty of times. The last lesson that I want you to think about is the community and brand trust. She didn't just sell her products, she built a community. She spoke at conventions. She educated women on financial independence. She reinforced that buying her products weren't just about hair, it was about confidence and opportunity. Huge, huge. Think about that. She was a widow. She was a widow at age 20, single mom. And so she took her hardship, she turned it around, and then she taught others how to get through their hardship or how to not have hardship. Like today, there's plenty of women in the world that, or even in your towns, that need to understand more about financial independence. Typically, the husband takes care of the bills. My husband takes care of the bills. Know where those passwords are so that if something happens to your husband, you know where all the accounts are. Talk to him about your finances. Where are you at? Don't just leave it because you're so busy doing the other things. I know I get off on my tangent here, but CJ Walker, you need to do, if you're interested in this story at all, do some research. There's a documentary out there. It's really, really incredible. So she was a philanthropist and an advocate for change. So beyond her business success, and this is important to know, she was deeply committed to giving back. Her legacy as a philanthropist and advocate for racial and gender equality is as impactful as her entrepreneurial journey. She donated generously to schools, including the Tuskegee Institute, and she funded scholarships for young Black women to attend college. She fought for racial and gender equality. She was an active supporter of civil rights and women's suffrage, showing her commitment to justice and equality. Through her business alone, she gave women the opportunity to achieve financial independence and grow their own businesses. And her story reminds us that true leadership is about leaving a legacy and empowering others. For me, this is a part of the reason I offer leadership coaching. I do want to help women recognize their power, develop that mindset of an executive, and create impact in both personal and professional lives. So what can we learn from Madam C.J. Walker today? What can we learn? Well, for women in business today, here are the lessons I put down. Maybe there's others that you would think about, as you research her story, but know your audience and serve them well. And when I say audience, what does that mean? What does that mean, audience? I'm speaking from an entrepreneur perspective, but I want you to think about it as your team. So, like, know your team and serve them well. Know your colleagues and serve them well. Does that mean you have to do all the work? Does that mean you'd have to say yes to everything? No, it doesn't. And we can talk about that on a different podcast. But do approach it as a position of servant and serving. So find ways to uplift others through your work. That is another lesson here. Find ways to uplift others through your work. How are you going to give back? Whether that your organization, maybe they support the Ronald McDonald House. And so you want to volunteer there, or you want to do something, or you personally have it on your heart for my father died of heart disease. So the American Heart Association would be a logical place for me to give back to, right? Another lesson is that success comes from more than a great product. It's about building a movement. It's about building a movement. So success comes from more than what you're selling. It's about building a movement. And I just go back to my corporate life and I think about the ice cream machines that we manufactured and that we sold, and it was bigger than that. It was bigger than the cooking equipment. It was bigger than the margarita machines or the slush machines. We gave entrepreneurs an opportunity to build their businesses, and then when their businesses are built through the products that we sold, then their communities grew too, right? It's all about economic development. And finally, giving back creates a lasting legacy. So really think about where you want to give back in 2026. Where is it that, do you have a specific place that you want to give back to? Do you give back to them now? Should you? If you don't, when will you? Like, identify it and then start. Her strategies are as relevant today as they were then. And it's very clear to me that leadership is much more than strategy. It's about heart, it's about empowerment, and it's about legacy. Madam C.J. Walker, she might have built a beauty empire over 100 years ago, but her marketing strategies, her leadership principles, and entrepreneurial mindset still resonate, especially with me, and I'm pretty sure with you too. Her life is that testament to the power of resilient leadership, how it can change lives, how it can uplift communities, and how it can create that lasting impact. So I'd love to hear what your takeaway from Madam CJ Walker's story is. Like, how can you apply her business mindset to your leadership journey? I really am interested to know that. But before we wrap up, I just have one question that I've asked at every single podcast in this month, and that is, where is this showing up for me right now? That's your question, not for me, but for you. Where is this showing up right now for you? I want you to ask that question, because leadership only changes when behavior changes. And as you know, I work with leaders who are buried in the day to day. Right? We've talked about that before. I help simplify things. I help you get out of the weeds. I help you start running the business or your department or your job, whatever your role is, instead of the role or others, running you. And if that sounds like where you are, you can learn more about how to work with me at graceandsaltleadership.com. And if this episode was helpful, please share it with another leader. We need to get the word out. We need to start this movement. We need to take a lesson out of CJ Walker's book, and let's start this movement together. Be sure to subscribe and so that you don't miss the next episode. And I would love to hear from you soon. Let me know what you think. And if there's any topic that you would like me to address, that I'm qualified to address, I would absolutely do that. So have a great day, and until next time.
Thanks so much for hanging out on the top floor. If today's episode gave you something to think about or a little boost, share it with your friends to keep the momentum going. And hey, if you're ready to rise, find your voice, and lead with clarity and confidence, we'd love to connect with you. Reach out at graceandsaltleadership.com to learn how Grace and Salt can support your growth. Remember, you don't have to lead like everyone else, just lead like you. All right, I'll see you next time on the top floor.